Hi everyone. Ambassador Nikolay Korchunov joins us today, who held former positions such as the head of Russia's EU political section, the deputy permanent representative of Russia to NATO, and also the senior Arctic official of Russia to the Arctic Council. Yes, thank you for joining the program, Ambassador.
It's a pleasure.
And the topic of discussion is the Arctic. I really wanted to ask you some questions here because, as we know, in the past, the Arctic was to a large extent exempted from this great power rivalry. That is, we were able to cooperate even during tensions. But now, unfortunately, we can't even cooperate in the Arctic Council. So cooperation and competition in the Arctic appears to be changing as there's more strategic interest now in terms of both shipping lanes as well as natural resources, while at the same time we see the geopolitical situation changing. That is, the conflict between NATO and Russia has intensified, and at the same time we see Russia reorganizing much of its economy towards the east, which means it also has different partners for the Arctic. So I guess unavoidably this influences how we cooperate and compete in the Arctic. My first question though is one of Russia's key projects, which could transform the Arctic, is this Northern Sea Route. What are the opportunities and the challenges with establishing this transportation corridor, and who is Russia developing it with now?
Thank you. That is a very good and very topical question. The Northern Sea Route is currently one of the most promising, safe, short, and economically advantageous sea corridors in the world. Speaking at the International Forum Arctic Territory of Dialogue in Murmansk in March this year, the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, has stated that it should become a key section, a key element of the trans-Arctic transport corridor, which will run from St. Petersburg through Murmansk to Vladivostok, united the west and east region of Russia. There is growing demand for the Northern Sea route on the global trade arena. Data shows the stable increase in cargo traffic, which last year amounted to near 38 million tons. I would like to highlight especially that transit along the Northern Sea route has grown by 44% in 2024, primarily due to the fact that ships began to redirect through the Northern Sea route some of the cargo to Asia. Previously, it would always go through the Suez Canal. No less important is that for 2 years already, icebreakers have been operating on the route near all year round. As for the challenges, the entire system of international maritime logistics currently suffers from a high level of uncertainty. The risks of unpredictable events are remaining high, as shown by the example of the southern routes. Sanctions pressure, nowadays tariffs war, also play a certain role. Nevertheless, both state and business are jointly carrying out large-scale work to expand and to renovate the port infrastructure, increase the ice breaker and emergency rescue fleets. Russian companies that transport oil products and LNG are already operating in the northern seas. Nevertheless, more capacities are needed to ship coal, bulk, and other cargo. More shipbuilding capacity is also needed to replenish the merchant fleet. We are open to creating joint venture enterprise there. We are actively interacting with some countries, particularly with China. Bilateral subcommission on the Northern Sea Route has been operating since May 2024. In June 2024, a relevant structure on the Northern Sea Route has been launched within the Russian-Indian Intergovernmental Commission for Interaction. We are also in dialogue with other countries which have good expertise in and knowledge in shipbuilding and maritime shipping. Partners from Belarus and the United Arab Emirates showing interest in the Northern Sea Route as well.
Yeah, it's interesting how India is connecting as well with Vladivostok and then connecting to the Arctic as well. There's a lot of projects in this direction. Now, besides being providing a transportation corridor which is faster and cheaper, what are the available resources in the Arctic? Because this is also a key attraction for cooperation and development. What are the main Russian projects we're seeing now for energy extraction? And I guess yet again, who are the main partners of Russia now as it's reorienting its economy more towards the east?
First of all, I would like to stress that Arctic is a region full of those rare earth metals, other strategic materials which are in growing demand needed for energy transition. And I think everyone has heard of the largest oil and gas projects. It's Varendey, Priraslomne, Novy Port, Yamal Energy, Vostok Oil, copper concentrate mining project in the Baimskaya ore zone, and the activities of the Norilsk Nickel, those company and the projects. Copper is one of the metal which is in very growing demand for the green and economy and for the energy transition. So developing the Arctic mineral resource potential is one of the key priorities of the Russian government. This includes both facilities at the fields and the entire network of logistics chains, including offshore and onshore transportation and supply infrastructure. Huge investments are being made in order to develop energy projects in the Arctic, and the return is also expected to be significant, over 100 million tons of finished and semi-finished products by 2030. Despite the sanctions pressure, the governmental plan of developing Northern Sea Route for the period up to 2035 is being gradually implemented. On March 28, the President of Russia launched the first loading of the Lavna coal terminal on the shore of the Kola Bay in the Murmansk region. Let's not forget about the Arctic Gates marine oil transshipment terminal, the Utreny terminal for the Arctic LNG project, the Sever terminal for the Vostok oil project, and the Northern Latitudinal Railway, which is becoming more and more important because that could provide the supply of cargo and goods to the Northern Sea Route from the south. All of these projects are, of course, complex, costly, but very, very, very promising. I have already mentioned our main partners in the Arctic, but it is important to add that Russia is ready to work together not only with the Arctic states, because nowadays it is on pause, but with all those who are interested in the sustainable and peaceful development of the region and focus on the long-term perspective.
And I also wanted to ask because the United States seeks to challenge part of Russia's control in the Russian Arctic, but well, not just Russia, but also Canada for that sake. But what is the foundation for the United States contesting both Russian and, I guess, Canadian claims, territorial claims in the Arctic? And how does the U.S. position towards the Arctic on these issues align with other Arctic states? How much divisions are there between the NATO allies, for that sake, and to what extent does it matter now that we see that all the 7 other Arctic states besides Russia, that is, are now NATO members? How does that impact the rivalry?
The main consequence of the selective approach of some states to the international law, including the issue of expanding the outer limits of the continental shelf, is contributing to the growing uncertainty and destabilizing elements in the region. First and foremost, it would affect shipping and economic activities and the plan of the government of the Arctic states, their plans. Because with any uncertainty arrives risks for any activities in the region. That is why any decisions in this regard should be implemented on the base of international law, primarily through the Commission on the Limits of the Continental Shelf. The fact that the 7 out of the 8 Arctic states are members of NATO indicates that the security formula in high latitudes it's becoming increasingly complicated. The Arctic countries are currently in a difficult situation, facing the great number of challenges in the area of security, climate change, frozen scientific cooperation, and the consequences of crisis in other regions. The only thing that NATO's presence in the region can add to that is a further escalation of tension. And besides, the present state of things are not guaranteed forever. We are all currently observing with some concern the situation around Greenland. Claims for territorial expansion by the United States and Denmark's unwillingness to part with its colonial past, as well as statements about Canada becoming a part of the US. So that could reconfigure the number of those states and Arctic players in the future. Who knows?
So just to clarify, the Russian position on the US laying claim to Greenland, is this considered, is this creating concerns in Moscow, or how do you see it?
Of course, any conflict, although that is the conflict between two states, those members of NATO, that with that could arrive some uncertainty, but that is the issue to be settled first of all by Denmark and US. It is not our issue. It's not for us any problem establishing over there. So, and we hope that any way out of this situation will be based on the will of Greenlanders. That is the important also to take into account that the rights, future of indigenous peoples of Greenland. So, but we are hoping for the better, for the solution which will be in the interest of Greenlanders.
Yeah. Well, given the tensions now between East and West, we see that Russia increases its cooperation with the East and to develop the Arctic, then primarily China, but as we also said, also countries like India. What are the role of these states in the Arctic in terms of their interest, and do you see any wider ramifications of their involvement?
The Asian region is becoming the driver of global economic growth. China and India account for a significant share of global GDP, and this share is being expected to rise in the future. So it is natural that these countries think globally and don't exclude the Arctic from their area of interest. At the same time, it is surprising that so much negatively is directed at those non-Arctic actors who promote in high latitudes a purely peaceful agenda, instead of those who send warships there. The active involvement in the Arctic affairs by such non-Arctic states as UK, Belgium, Germany, the Netherlands, and France is rarely questioned. And that is very unfortunate.
That's a good point. Well, my final question is the possibility of, well, I guess improving relations between Russia and the other Arctic states, because, well, I guess as a Norwegian and also being an Arctic state here, I hope, at some point mutually beneficial cooperation between our countries can be restored in the Arctic, given that, of course, we're neighboring countries. Do you see any opportunities for going, if not going back to the way things were, to at least build some new foundation for Arctic cooperation, or is a lot of the, I guess, projects already organized with the East now?
So we are speaking about the Norway, and Norway is currently following, unfortunately, the anti-Russian agenda of Western countries. However, the objective picture is that Russia and Norway are doomed to cooperate. Our countries are not just and only neighbors as Arctic states. So we bear a special responsibility for the destiny of this particular region. Many existing problems in the Arctic can only be solved through joint efforts: climate change, permafrost degradation, loss of biodiversity, natural and man-made disasters. Well-being of the indigenous peoples require searching for common solution within the framework of existing intergovernmental formats, and for the sake of developing international science and cooperation. As for economic cooperation, I'd like to put it simply. The current political setting, framework, doesn't correspond to the economic base, economic potential. So that is abnormal. Giving the economic and geographical position of your country, as well as taking into account long-term benefits, it is obvious that if, or in case, Norway acted in its own interest, it would not miss the opportunity to implement and implement joint projects related to the development of the Northern Sea Route, and not only, and aviation lines from Norway to Asia. I note with regret that instead Norway has set on a course towards confrontation, breaking existing ties. I also know that Norwegian business, some of Norwegian business, especially in the north, has suffered as a result of sanctions against Russia. Many apparently fearing persecution refrain from contact, but there are also those who are interested in reestablishing working ties and the business and interaction over there in high north.
Well, as you said, half the Arctic being Russian, yeah, we are doomed to cooperate. So, Ambassador, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, you too. Thank you. All the best.
Likewise.